Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Calaveras Community Television, also known as PEG Access Television, here in Calaveras County. This, by the way, is rather a milestone for a couple of us. Paul Muller, our producer and director, and myself are beginning our 21st year together, filming shows for PEG Access Television. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem that long to me, and I'm sure it doesn't to Paul either. Today we're going to bring to you, once again, Mr. Dwayne Onito, whom we left you with last fall when we did our last show of last season. Some of you will remember that Dwayne and I were up at Couts Ironstone Vineyards, and we were talking at that time about the breakup of UPA. Utica Power Authority, and it had to do primarily with CCWD leaving the Utica Power Authority, why they were leaving it, what it would do to the authority, and so on. And we promised you at that time that when updates became available and when things began to happen, we'd get back to you, and here we are. And so, Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here, Merle.
Dwayne, when we left last fall, we were talking about the fact that CCWD was going to be leaving this troika, and that the City of Angels and UPUD would be left to run it by themselves. That has since happened.
Correct.
You have been elected as chairman of the new board.
Correct.
And tell me now where we are. We were concerned, and let's remind our viewers that we were concerned about a number of things, some having to do with money, some having to do with personnel.
Okay. It has occurred, although I prefer to use the term reorganization rather than breakup. And we are presently operating with a 4-member board. However, we have an agreement that has been approved by the City of Angels and by UPUD, Union Public Utility District in Murphys, that is going to establish a 5th member for the board, which the 4-member board will select the criteria and the method of selecting that 5th member.
So this member will be a member at large from the community somewhere, is that it?
That's correct. The only stipulation is that it be somewhere in the area that Utica Power Authority serves, which would be basically starting below Forest Meadows and somewhere below Angels Camp along the creek, and out the Dogtown Ditch Users Association out along Dogtown Road. That basically is somewhere from that area that person will be appointed to the board.
Can we... Is it going to be possible to get any kind of a sneak preview? In other words, will this person, for instance, need to be a homeowner in the area and so on?
Nope. The only stipulation is that they live in the basic area that I outlined, in the service area of UPA.
Okay. All right. Now, we get the 5th member on the board, which is obviously going to make it much easier for you to break ties and so on. Where do we go from here?
Well, hopefully there won't be any need to break ties. It's worked very well so far, but of course everything is operating pretty smoothly right now. A big water year and everything going very well. Eventually there may be a problem between the City of Angels and UPUD, which that person will need to break the tie, and that will be a very pressure-packed spot, I would assume, when that happens. But our legal advice is that since we are both we're representative public agencies, that we should have an odd number, although that didn't seem to affect us when CCWD was there. But anyway, it just seems to me to be a good idea that if we do have an impasse, there needs to be somebody there to break the tie.
All right, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's not snowing here in Murphys Park. That's cotton from the trees that you're seeing, possibly. You mentioned a big water year. I mentioned that we're here in Murphys Park. Obviously, that brings us to Murphys Creek and this beautiful flow of water. Super big water year. What does that do to UPA?
Not much. Our allotment is set by the amount of water that flows into the Stanislaus River, and after it tops 500,000 acre feet running down the Stanislaus, our allotment is set. at the high at 50 cubic feet per second in the summer, and it gradually tails off. So we do not get any more water unless McKay spills, and then if McKay spills, we get NCPA will ship more water our way because they can't use it, and we share the income with them. But basically, the nice thing about this is when we get dry years and every drop is counted, then there comes a lot of consternation and stuff. So in a water year, everything is nice and nobody's worrying about every last drop. So it becomes much easier dealing with NCPA.
Let's try and clarify something for our viewers. You said that in the event that McKay spills, and apparently, if I may digress for just a moment, apparently there's no chance that Spicer will ever do that.
It may very well be, but if Spicer goes, I don't see how any. I'm sure McKay's will be spilling for sure. Then, if they can't hold it all in Spicer's. So, McKay's is a diversion tunnel, or the diversion dam for the Collierville tunnel.
Right.
And if McKay's is spilling, then they're not running the water. They can't run any more water through the Collierville powerhouse, and then they will divert it to us so we can make power here.
And how do they physically go about diverting it to you?
Through the tunnel tap, which is located at Hathaway Pines, right by Hunter's Reservoir.
And ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to pause for a moment here and explain to you that some of the discussion that Dwayne and I are having right now has to do with the NCPA project that took place, well, starting way back in the 40s and up through about 8 or 10 years ago. And fortunately, Calaveras Community Television and Paul Muller have a good chronicle of what took place during the time that NCPA was building all of these facilities, enlarging Spicer, building McKay, putting in the tunnel tap, doing the drilling down to Darby Knob, and so forth. And in just a short while, probably another couple of weeks, we will be bringing you folks up to date on that NCPA project. It was a huge project, a project that will, and Dwayne, correct me here if I'm wrong, impact Calaveras County for the next several hundred years at least.
I would certainly think so, as forever. I mean, as far as getting the water here.
So it's very central to the discussion we're having right now, and we felt it was necessary for you newer folks who've come into the county, and some of you who missed the earlier shows, that we bring those to you. All right, folks, let's go back now to the discussion that Dwayne and I were having about the spill at McKay's Point. When and if that spill occurs and the water starts down through the tunnel tap and you get access to that water, you said it allows us now to make more power, assuming we're talking about Angel's Powerhouse.
But basically Murphy's Powerhouse.
Ah, okay.
Because
that's
Angels will probably be running max at that time.
All right.
And what they do is, because once they can't take it at Collierville, they just divert more into the tunnel and take it out at the tunnel tap and put it into Hunter's Reservoir, and then we run it this way. And that, I mean, they can only put so much in the tunnel to run Collierville. Okay. When they're maxed at Collierville, then if they put extra water in, they divert it our way.
And what does that do to the finances, if anything, for UPA?
Well, it obviously helps. I mean, we share the revenue, but it's still more money. But, you know, UPA has been extremely fortunate. We have been basically in business now for about 9 years, and we have already managed to pay off. We started at $3.5 million. 3.7 million with borrowed funds, and we now have it down under 2 million, so that basically we've managed in 9 years to pay off $1.7 million, which I think is an excellent track record, providing we had the fire to go through also.
Sure. And building the new flume and all that sort of thing.
That's correct, yes.
Now, you said we share the revenue. I assume that's with NCPA.
Right.
Okay. Now, what are we looking at down the road for UPA?
I think it's basically we're going to have to operate with our allotment, and as I pointed out to you, we feel we've done an excellent job so far in 9 years, and hopefully we will be able to. It looks like right now, even though we were in a dry year, the power prices have been high enough that we will be able to make another hefty. We still owe CCWD about $900,000 on their $2 million loans that they gave us, and we'll hopefully be able to make a hefty payment on those in June when we start our new budget year. So we're hoping to get that down, hopefully maybe to 800,000, and so I think we're going to be fine as long it all depends on the price of power. If the price of power stays up, UPA is going to be fine, and we're going to be able to do a whole lot of good for everybody.
Years ago, when we started the NCPA project on television, Steve Felty, who at that time was the general manager of CCWD, made a statement that Paul and I have never forgotten, and that is that water is more important to Calaveras County than the gold that's in Calaveras County. I dare say that is more true today than it was at that time. Do you agree?
Oh, certainly. Certainly. It is just so key. I mean, when you think of the time and effort that people have put in with UPA in order to save the water for Calaveras County, because had the NCPA project gone through, we would be looking at 10 cubic feet per second running behind us here, only during the daytime, but down to about 5 or less at night, but just for recreation purposes. And so we have saved 5 times the water. That's basically what UPA has done for Calaveras County.
All right, now, I'm not sure that UPA is going to be directly involved in this next comment I'm going to make, but quite possibly indirectly, and you clear us up on it. We know that there is a lot of planned community on the western end of Calaveras County, particularly the Copperopolis area, certainly some in the Valley Springs area and so on. Building means water. Where does that water come from? How does it affect you folks?
Does not affect us. It affects CCWD tremendously because they're the ones responsible for providing the water to that area. As soon as the water leaves the Angels powerhouse, UPA's responsibility ends with the water. Okay. Obviously, if they're going to try and use some of this water in western part of the county, they're going to have to worry about the Oakdale Irrigation District and the Stanislaus Irrigation District and all those people who are using water out of Maloney's. They are going to have to fight, I would assume, those, and again, there are some water rights involved with New Maloney's that Calaveras County has. And again, this is not my area of expertise, but that would be CCWD's responsibility to somehow develop the water resources necessary to meet that in that area.
All right, Dwayne, we've talked about the west end of the county and CCWD's problem down there. Let's bring it back locally to the area covered by the City of Angels and UPUD. Not much growth going to take place probably in the UPUD area relative to the growth in the Angels Camp area, that is.
Well, I don't agree with
you
that.
Don't? Okay,
no.
all right.
I mean, you can look right out here over at the conference center here at Murphy's and see what's happening there. And we just had a proposal the other day for down here in Douglas Flat for another 40, 50 homes and that type of thing. So if UPUD builds out, and with subdivisions, that type of thing, there will be considerable demand. But you're right. I mean, actually, I think the city is more limited because their boundaries are set and they're pretty well built out within the boundaries, although they could annex other areas and grow that way. But I think it's going to be, the real problem is going to come in the future when the City of Angels and UPUD are taking so much water that we are no longer able to run it through the powerhouses to generate the power to pay to get the water here. Because that's basically what we're doing right now is the powerhouses pay to get the water here, and UPUD pays actually, the City of Angels gets its water free because of its agreement with PG&E, and UPUD pays about $2,000 a year, which is peanuts for its water, and basically we're able to keep the prices where we are simply because it doesn't cost us anything to get the water here.
Right.
When we can no longer make power to get the water here, then water prices will go sky high. And the other problem of what to do when we run out, right now in the summertime we're going about 50 cubic feet per second, of which we're using about 20. So there's a nice 30 point or 30 cubic feet per second leadway there. And eventually, as people build up, that's going to disappear, that leadway.
Sure.
And right now, we have the UPA license from the government is on a 30-year basis. We're already into that. I think we have like 27 more years to go for the license. Hopefully, we will be able to stay within our leadway for the next 27 years. And then when the new license is granted, we may be in a position to go to FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and say, hey, we got to have more water for our people here when the new license is granted, and hopefully they will look on that favorably and increase the amount of flows that would come this way.
Okay, you anticipated my next question, because you can talk all you want about money, but if there isn't any water,
that's right.
Why, then it's a moot point.
Yes.
So the fact of the matter is that right now we've got a leeway of about 30 cubic feet per second coming down the stream, and obviously that's going to be heavily dependent on the build-out that takes place in both UPUD and the Angels Camp area. And you're telling me, if I heard you correctly, that you've got about a 35 to 40 year, lookout to get something satisfied when and if that occurs.
Yeah, I mean, again, the license will run out in 27 years.
Okay.
It'll expire in 27 years, and then we'll go through the licensing process again, and hopefully at that time we will be able to increase the allotment to meet our needs.
Is there any reason logically to assume you wouldn't be able to increase that allotment?
Well,
I mean, I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball, I know.
You have already said to me that it's more important than gold to
Right.
Calaveras County. And
Right.
if it's that important, how many people want get their fingers in the pie? And so it's obviously going to be a tremendous struggle, because everybody, I mean, it is so important that everybody wants a piece of the action. So it's going to be I say hopefully, because I'm hoping that whoever's here, it probably won't be me, but whoever's here can make a good enough case with the federal government that, yes, we need more water.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is obviously not a tremendously exciting type of show to do. We don't have a lot of action to bring you and so on. It is somewhat an emotional type of show to do, but it is even more so an extremely important show to do, because if you don't have water in Calaveras County, you don't have anything. And so obviously this whole project is extremely important. Dwayne Onito is an integral part of the Angels Camp Murphy's portion of that scenario. We're delighted to have you with us again, Dwayne. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is not the end of this series. We'll be bringing you more as time goes on, and it becomes important for us to get back to you. Dwayne, thanks for being with us again.
Always a pleasure, Merle.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, for my producer and director, Paul Muller, this is Merle Luckin. We'll see you on PEG Access Television.